And when life becomes too much to handle, what do? Too much going on, too many things to take care of, too complex, confusing, exhausting. We are going to talk for a few moments here about the simple life, a life that is streamlined, a life that's truly enjoyable. And this is number 9 in 12 laws for great living. Living abundantly, living joyously, living a life that's truly desirable, totally apart from the usual boring, frustrating, humdrum life that most people live. Living a wonderful life that's exuberant and satisfying. Yes, an uncomplicated, uncluttered, freer, healthier life. That's a simple life. It's a higher quality of life. Less taxing, less expensive, but more enjoyable. Better food, better clothes, a better life all the way around. The Bible gets onto this in numerous places. It talks in Matthew 6:22 about having a single eye. That means a pure eye, where a lot is just ignored and your focus is good. It's a better kind of life, and it's a healthier kind of life. Over 500 years ago, a young man still in his early 20s, Michelangelo, saw a huge block of marble. But he saw something else. He saw something in that heavy, huge block of marble. And he began working on it, trimming, chiseling, chipping away. 5 years later, he was finished. What did he do? He did nothing but remove the excess. He did nothing but remove the clutter. He did nothing but remove what simply was not needed. And he ended up with his world-famous statue of David. Oh, 18 feet high. David. We still marvel at it. But what was done? David was in there all along. He did not sculpt David. He just removed marble from that huge block of stone. That's all. It's amazing what you can end up with when you remove the clutter of life, all the stuff, the junk that is not needed at all. This is really the simple life. I want to give you now 4 principles of the simple life. Principle number 1 for living the simple, the uncluttered, the getting rid of all the junk kind of life. The first principle is spiritual progress over physical pleasure. The simple life is the life that focuses on the unseen, on the spiritual, yes, not on the visible, but the invisible, the spiritual life. Let's break that down a little bit. What does it mean to focus on the spiritual as opposed to focusing on the stuff of life that you can see? Well, it means, first of all, that what I am is more important than what I have. Who you are spiritually is more important than stuff that you can hold in your hands. It means the more you have to live for, the less you need to live on. Ah, that means deaccumulating and getting rid of stuff and not hankering after things. It means the desire for material things is in direct proportion to your spiritual emptiness. The less you have spiritually, the slower the progress you're going in your spiritual life. Then there comes a desire, even a burning desire for physical things, yes. So the simple life, principle number one is very clear. Spiritual progress is more important than physical pleasure. Principle number two, that quality is more important than quantity. How long you live is not as important as how you live. How healthy you are, you may be struggling with illness. How healthy you are is not as important as to what you do with the strength that you have. That quality is more important than quantity. Principle number, that was number two. Now number three. The lighter your load, the easier your life. That seems strange, but it's the less I have to care for, the less I have to care. The more junk you have, the more anxiety you have. It's just a given. And that's principle number two, is the quality more important than quantity. Number three is the lighter your load, the easier your life. Principle number four of the simple life is that individuality is more important than conformity. Paul writes to the church at Rome, chapter 12, and says, "Be not conformed to this world." Check up on who you're trying to be like. Often it's a faint deal. You want to be good looking like some movie star, and think how much money and time you spend on your looks. Now, that doesn't mean you should be careless. For a believer, your body is the temple of the Holy Spirit, and it ought to be taken care of, certainly. But that does not mean that it is the chief object of your life and the chief goal of your life. Not at all. And certainly you're not trying to look like some other, quote, beautiful person that you've seen on television or in the movies someplace. No, 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 no. That it's just important. The simple life means that individuality is more important than conformity. And you are just simply to be yourself. God has created you. Accept yourself as you are and do the necessary things for personal care so when you go out in public, you do not scare people. But other than that, just be who you are, and God will honor you. You feel good about yourself. For the simple life is the best life. It's the life that is described, of course, in the scriptures. And the simple life is narrowed down. It's a focused life. So he has a single eye. It says in Matthew 6, 22. And Paul says in Philippians 3:13, this one thing I do. He lived a focused life. Psalm 27, verse 4, one thing again. It's not a life spread all over. So uncomplicate your life. What can you get rid of what you own? Things. Can you reduce the number of things that you own? You own a lot of things that just are not necessary at all. So get rid of them, give them away, sell them, whatever. And then declutter your schedule. Are the things on your schedule that just seem to be a burden? Have you made so many commitments that you're running yourself ragged trying to keep up with them? Streamline your life. Simplify your life. Share it down to the least thing. That's what Michelangelo did with that block of marble. And he ended up with a sculpture of true beauty. He did, yes. Do away with the unnecessary. The writer to Hebrews, who was Paul, by the way, just in case you did not know, he wrote half the books of the New Testament, 14 of them. And in that famous faith chapter, the 11th chapter of Hebrews, he tells about all these famous people from the Old Testament who just simply trusted God. How did they do that? How were they able to do that? Well, simply because they lived a unified life, a focused kind of life, a simple life. And you go into chapter 12 of Hebrews, and he says, seeing we are compassed about with so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight. He wants us to run the race, but he wants us to be unburdened, uncluttered. And what's he talking about when he says lay aside? He's talking about sin. Sin is an unwanted and excess load on your life. Is there any sin that is cluttering your life? confounding, confusing your life. Just determined to go to the Lord, get it forgiven, and drop it. Remove it from your life. So with freedom and less weight, you can live a life that is simple and free. It is very easy to get cluttered up in life with things. But once you start removing the physical things that really you don't want and don't need, and removing all the items from your schedule that you now wonder however you got involved in that. Just scrap it, get rid of it. And then spiritually, to get a life freed from sin and clean before God, like is taught in the Scripture, laying aside every weight and the sin that does so easily beset us. Sin can confuse your life. It clutters your life. It's an additive. It's not wanted. When God created Adam and Eve, they were created without sin. Sin has become part of the human nature. But remember, it was not there originally. It is an additive, an unwanted additive. There is the story of the Chicagoan who seemed stressed in his work and bought a cottage in Wisconsin so he'd have a place to relax from his work. Well, there were some problems. The boat leaked in the bottom, and the cottage leaked from the top. The wildlife turned out to be mostly mosquitoes, and then the police would not come when the neighbors were having a drunken party, but they showed up very quickly when his boys were shooting off fireworks down by the lake. It turned out to be a bad deal. The boat motor would not start and the fridge would not stop. The fish did not bite, but the stray dog did, and he's off to the local hospital for a shot and some stitches to do away with the damage. It was a tough life. And he survived his work, which was not easy. But he finally had a nervous breakdown from his relaxation in Wisconsin. And so we undutifully complicate our lives. There are some questions that you need to ask yourself along the way. When adding anything to your life, or when buying anything, you should ask, will this simplify or will this complicate my life? Yes, there was the fellow who thought he wanted a boat, so he bought a boat. And but then he discovered that he needed a license for the boat, so he's off to get a license for the boat. Then he found out he needed a trailer to haul the boat to the lake. Well, he got a trailer, and then he didn't have a trailer hitch on his car, so he had to go and find at the hardware store a trailer hitch for his car. But then he found out that he needed a license for the trailer. And his wife said, "When is this going to stop?" And he said, "I don't know. I didn't count on all these other things." And then he discovered also that to be within the law, he had to have a light on the back of his trailer. And so he had to run a cord from the car back to the trailer. And he said, "I would have never bought this boat if I thought the whole thing was going to cost me so much and complicate my life so much." So you should ask yourself, when you make a decision about your time or about your money, will this simplify or complicate my life? And then you should ask yourself also, will this save time or take time? Everything you own demands some attention from you, some time from you, until pretty soon we're overwhelmed with all of it. And then you should also ask the question, will this save money or take money? Oh my. Sometimes a small purchase can lead to a lot of other purchases. And it's everything, it may not save money at all. And then you should ask yourself, will this free me or will this enslave me? So you bought a membership in a health club, but now because you have the membership, you feel you have to go. There are times when you don't want to go. There's something else you'd like to do, but you have the membership. Every decision in life needs to be weighed carefully and forecasted. That is, what are the implications of this decision? Will it reduce my troubles in life, or will it add troubles to my life? You have to take care of it. We live in a time which, without our decisions, is automatically becoming more expensive and more complicated than we want it to be. We have no control over some things. I remember when a first-class postage stamp was 3 cents. The last time I bought a roll of stamps, each stamp was 63 cents. What happened to my dollar? If you've been around a while, you remember when you filled your gas tank on your car for $5. Now, that's almost what they want for 1 gallon of gas. What happened to the dollar? Life has become more expensive. It has become more complicated. To the extent that you're able to withdraw yourself from this, you become a freer person and a more joyous person for sure. Yes, you do. And Jesus is the one who came to to set you free. I have my Bible open here to Luke, and I'm in the 4th chapter and the 18th verse, where Jesus says this: "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he has anointed me to preach the gospel." The gospel's good news. "To the poor. He sent me to heal the brokenhearted, to preach deliverance to the captive." Have you become a captive of the life that you, with your decisions, you have created? "To recover the sight of the blind, to set at liberty those that are bruised." Are you enslaved by the decisions you have made? Enslaved by what you have bought? Jesus will set you free. It says in John chapter 8, where are we? Verse 36. "If the Son," that is Jesus, "will make you free, you shall be free indeed." That freedom comes from knowing Jesus. And you find when you have him centered in your life that a lot of the stuff, junk, that you thought you needed, really, you do not. That Jesus brings to you a freedom and a satisfaction and just an inward calmness and peace that delivers you, rescues you, frees you from the trap of modern living with all its stuff and all its junk. So turn to Jesus, make him the center of your life, and then you'll experience a redemption, a release, an amazing freedom that you can only know when you know Jesus. And he runs your life, and he rules your life, and you make your decisions in accordance with his will. Then you will have a glorious, free, wonderful, exhilarating life in Jesus Christ.